Welcome into a spring edition of the Loochador Podcast. Right before the spring game, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, your college football tailgate destination and official sports good and outdoor retailer of the SEC. Stop by your local Academy Sports and Outdoors website, academy.com, and gear up for game day today. All right, Billy, let's get right into it. No banana in the tailpipe. We're going to talk some spring football. You saw Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
That's good reference. Come on.
You know, there's a story here in the offices. That is a banana made out of, for those of you that are, let's say, 40 plus, remember Stretch Armstrong, the toy, like Stretch toys? It's made out of that material. And we had a pitching contest back there. I don't know where it came from, but it's just been hovering around the office. We had a pitching contest and batting.
Batting, yeah.
OB was up there first. We had like one of these camera pod. You're swinging at it, and you can roll that thing up in a ball. Bronny steps up to the plate, and we still don't know why he went open stance on us.
He went Conseco on you. He did.
Very open stance. And I told him, I said, this is going to be a strike. I'm throwing a sidearm here. So I went lefty sidearm to a righty open stance batter, and I'll let y'all figure out what happened with that pitch. And hand me that thing. It's not what it looks like. That's limp. It's not what it looks like, but
that hit.
It's not.
It hit
soft.
somewhere.
It's not soft. It
caused an emotional reaction,
and it was caused a severe injury. Let's just put it that way. So caused like a 5-minute injury. You know those 5-minute injuries?
Where you're just down on it. And
you
then
feel
you don't
better
want
after
people to
the
talk.
5 minutes.
I remember he didn't want to hear your apology. He was on his knee for a while.
Well, y'all were all laughing, and I'm like, don't laugh. That's. I saw what happened. Like,
I don't think I laughed.
Don't laugh. Okay.
So we got the spring game coming up on Saturday, obviously. What are some things that have caught your eye, maybe from being in practice, maybe chatting with some of the folks that are at across the street?
Oh man, that's an open ender.
Well,
give me a specific. Give me a specific.
Has something caught your eye when you got across the street? All right,
a lot of things.
Can we talk about position groups then? Like how do you want to get started?
I'll tell you what. Here, I'll just start. I'll just tell you this. This is what I feel pretty good about coming out of spring. Whether it's intel, whether it's watch, and it doesn't mean I feel bad about it, but I'm going to talk about what, if you're watching Saturday, I feel, start with the obvious, what might be the most obvious. I feel great about the defensive line. I also see why they're still kind of kicking the tires on some portal visitors at the position. They brought the guy in from UCF. You can see where there's a little lack of proven depth, particularly inside.
Mm-hmm.
You can see where the Salazar kid from UCF would, starting almost, I believe it's like 40 career games, and where he comes in and really gives you some much needed depth in terms of a big physical guy behind the Shamar Stewart, Nick Scorton guys. Those guys that are big physical players. Scorton led the Big Ten in sacks last year, but I would still say you see his frame and stuff, and he's built. Yeah, he can get to the quarterback, and he does it a lot of times off effort and intensity, but he's also built for power. His frame is, when you see him, and you guys see him Saturday, he's a powerfully built defensive end. He's not like this long, lean edge rusher that a lot of times you want to think of when you think, oh, who led a conference in sacks? So I think he'll fit into that type of rotation over there. I think fans are going to go out there Saturday and really like what they see physically from Cassius Howell, from number 15, who I think looks as improved. I'm going to name some guys that, to me, look the most improved physically. I'm going to start, since we're talking D-line, with Rylan Kennedy. He looks damn good. Malik Silla, I've mentioned before, no longer looks like a basketball player. He looks like a guy that's been in a college weight room. So that position, and Cassius Howell, and I'm going to name another one later, but Cassius Howell is my biggest sleeper out of the portal, just as in a guy that I don't feel like we've talked about enough.
Agreed.
That can have impact. And I'm not saying he's going to – I don't even know that, he starts. You got Stewart and Stewart and Scorton at ends. But because he's such a gifted pass rusher off the edge, he's just a perimeter guy. And I think he's going to play and contribute a ton this fall. So those three guys people are going to see them Saturday, and they're going to see them getting after the quarterback, and they go, okay, I really like what I see there in terms of just a little change up to the Stewart, Scorton, that power.
Mm-hmm.
You can put Shamar Turner out there. Elko, we've seen him. Like we've seen Mike Elko in his defense play DeMarvin Leal at end. We've seen him play Bobby Brown at end. So I do think there's times you'll see number 5 out there. Shamar Turner, who missed all spring. He got, cleaned up an end of season injury, so that was good. But he's been out there every day watching. Inside him, DJ Hicks. I think you'll see a lot of Rodus Johnson on Saturday. And again, no one talks. We talk about losing, they lost a depth piece in Isaiah Rakes. No one talks about, Albert Regis is still here. Gabe Brownlow-Dindy. He's been banged up, so I don't know what we'll see from him Saturday, but he's a guy that if he can get healthy going into the fall camp could be one of those surprise guys. But Rodus Johnson's an interesting one because he started, 25 career games in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. They play physical defense. They hit you. Yep. They line up, and it's a smash mouth league. So another kind of underrated addition, I think, that people should keep an eye on Saturday. He's a really big dude, but also built athletically as well. So that D-line is it's going to be what I think, what we thought it would be. And I think in particular, if they could get those edge guys I'm talking about, like Howell, Kennedy, Silla, to be productive, I think that gives it a dimension that we haven't seen the last couple seasons.
You want to talk about some of the guys that have entered the portal and maybe some of the guys we're looking at, or do you want to stick with spring games still?
We'll kind of go through positions, but for now, other guy, we know what to expect from Nick Scorton. He's been a hell of a leader. I think if he had more time here than just this spring, I think he could have been one of those guys you talk about as a captain of the defense. He's a leader in that regard. And then Shamar Stewart, I've mentioned before, he ended last season doing this. I've watched him closely in practices. His get-off has gotten so much better, and just his feel for the game. I think Shamar, off of last season to this season, could be, if you're asking me to put money and say, okay, who are going to be the most improved guys on this football team, he would be a guy that if he can keep this kind of going, could take a real turn into that all SEC, hear his name on draft day type of guy. So D-line's there. You're talking portal now?
Well, no,
we'll come back. We'll go back. I don't want to just drone out into position. I'm just talking about some spots I'm pretty excited about.
Over the last week, Derek Graham, Sam McCall, Alex Howard, Jacoby Matthews, some of these names we knew were going to go in. But those are the guys that have entered. And the feeling is they weren't going to play a lot. I mean, I'm sorry that there was guys ahead of them on the depth chart.
I don't think anyone you said outside Jacoby Matthews. So I think he took care of himself, unfortunately. And we'll see where he transfers to. And I don't think that was some big, I'm not I don't mean that in a denigrating way, because I don't think he was a bad kid in the pro. I think he just, you don't handle business. And he won't be the only one. There'll be others, There might be another one with as big a name as Jacoby Matthews. And people, I'm not saying there is, but if there is, people will go, oh, no. Man, if they're doing stuff enough that they can play, but they can't play here. Especially if you go back and they had issues or the same question marks under a previous staff. I'm just here to tell you A&M football would be better off moving forward without him, whoever that is. And in the case of Jacoby, I'm going to talk safeties in a little bit. You heard Elko talk about him this week. I think that's a strong position. I think Jacoby can go be a good player somewhere else. I do. I think if he locks in, I think he could go be nothing against him as a player, but he just didn't handle business in a coaching transition. That is going to happen. Outside of him, I don't think any of these guys that have gone in the portal, including a couple that came in at the midterm, they came here, they went through a spring off season. Elko and company got to learn more about them, and on the flip side, they got to learn more about themselves, as in, can I play here? Is there a path for me to start? Am I even on the 2 deep? If there's not a path for me to start, I might consider changing my plans again.
Right.
If I'm not on the 2 deep, then I'm definitely out. So, yeah, I haven't seen anything yet in any of those names that, McCall and Kobe were already gone, but some of these midterm transfers, like your offensive lineman, I think there's another midterm guy that we'll probably hear will end up going. And there's guys that aren't gonna play.
Yeah.
And then at linebacker, he was brought in from Youngstown State to start or to compete to start. And that wasn't going to be the case. And, like Damian Sanford had a good spring. I don't think that's a lay down, but he from the end of the start of spring till now, he made significant strides. I think people though, I think sometimes I'm noticing people that look at still pictures and they see like here or there, and if a guy looks great, they think they're ready to play. That's not going to always be the case. I think we'll see a lot of 27 this year, but I still think linebacker to me is a question mark. That's why you see a couple guys being brought in. They still need depth there, and they need guys to come in and really compete, and that's what they thought they were getting, out of Youngstown State. That's not what it looks like happened. So he'll go try to find somewhere else to play, and that's the world of college football today. You're going to see it at every single school, and it's going to happen in A&M because they also had to clear out a little bit of room to get under the 85 anyway.
Right. And I still think we're talking about depth and impact players, wide receivers, still an area that they're going to, they got a visitor coming soon. So, like, their eyes are open there. Yeah,
losing Jabri Barber hurt. People, I think, and maybe I'm guilty of that too, just because it kind of popped up. You downplay it a little bit. He had been out for about a week before that news broke. And there's no question, you could tell by the way Elko talks, that's an extended period of time he'll be out. He was going to be your punt returner. And, if you told me that A&M lost a starting receiver when he went out, I wouldn't have argued with you. Like, he's legit. And he brought a little something different in terms of the quickness and the speed and kind of the playmaking ability with the balls in the air. He's good. He was really good. That's a loss. Like, that guy, whether he started or not, and I think there was a legit chance. I don't think it was a real chance. He would have played a lot regardless. So you got to replace that. And I think I said the other day, does that mean I think they needed to kind of go get another one? Maybe does that mean 2? Maybe it does. So those 2 spots, linebacker and receiver, you see a couple portal guys coming in to visit, no doubt.
And then offensive line, I feel pretty good about the guys they have, but they're still looking at that too.
I don't want to go every position. So go back to receiver. I think they're good at the top, but and Cyrus Allen had a good spring. But the numbers aren't there, man.
Yeah.
They're just not. And I've said before, like, there's opportunities for guys just to step up and grab some playing time and grab, attention of the staff. So, you mentioned offensive line. I love that Trey Zune's captain. He's got captain traits, man. Like, this is a guy who played hurt his whole freshman year and played left tackle hurt in the SEC as a freshman. I guess it was redshirt freshman. But as an SEC as a freshman. And if we're just being real honest, took his lumps. Because not only was he a freshman, he wasn't healthy, but he fought and stayed out there, which a lot of guys in the last couple of years in this program have not done. They have not done that. We've seen star players not do that. What does that mean to the culture of a program? Nia Smith would do it, but a lot of those guys wouldn't. Star players miss when everyone in that locker room knows you could play, and your coaches know it, and the trainers know it, and it's just so when guys like Trey Zune do what he did as a freshman, that speaks volumes. And speaking of freshmen, when Torian York can come in as a freshman and do what he did and earn the respect of a locker room and his veteran teammates. So love the captain selections. I love that it's Trey Zune. I really like A&M. What I really like, I love what they could potentially have on the interior. Mm-hmm. There are options in there. But I love Basantis playing inside now. I really like that. I think he's going to thrive there. And he has a chance to make a lot of money playing inside. I love Armaj Reed Adams from Kansas. I think he was a guy during the offseason that really caught my eye. And then Naboo, getting a lot of run there at center, because Bryce Foster's over at track, and I think, and Mark Naboo, 15 practices there for you to take advantage of. So I like what they've got inside, and that's with Cam Dewberry having been hurt, who finished the year starting. So, finished 2 years ago starting, and then started, it's him and Naboo kind of saw most of that playing time last year opposite Layden Robinson. So I think they have a chance to be a real physical, strong bunch in there, David, and that ties into one of the positions I'm quietly very excited about is running back.
Okay. Tell me more.
Because, again, it's like receiver with some of these guys where you go, okay, we've seen it, but we got to see it consistently wire to wire, and we got to see greatness from somebody wire to wire. You're not getting through an SEC schedule and getting to 10 wins or so, and 9 even in the first year of a coach without consistent excellence at receiver. Look at the teams that beat A&M last year. Tough Aggie defense, right? But the teams that scored points, excellence at receiver.
Yeah.
Alabama, they beat A&M because they were excellent at receiver.
Tennessee.
Ole Miss, not Tennessee. Ole Miss, excellent at receiver, right? LSU, excellent at receiver. Yeah. They exploited. I don't think this team is excellent at receiver, but in the game, those Oklahoma State receivers made tremendous catches.
Yep.
I know it was against a tatter, but they still, those catches against air were tough, and they made some tremendous catches in that game. So I think you're looking for playmakers, consistent playmakers on offense, and I think you have them in the backfield. We just haven't seen a lot of it yet. You've seen it in spurts. Amari Daniels had a good spring. He's one that we forget. He had a couple of big-time long runs last year that helped the Aggies in SEC wins. I thought until that fumble against Miami last year, he ran really tough. But then I think physically, Le'Veon Moss has made ridiculous strides under Tommy Moffitt in that weight room. He looks physically like if he walked in here right now, you go, damn. Okay, he comes in here and does interviews. It's been a minute, I think. If he comes in again, you're going to go, doesn't look like the same guy. And then Reuben Owens is electric, and he's been consistent this spring. And that's I think, the evolution. I think that interior line potential paired with the running backs and the way Colin Klein works that run game, I think he's very creative. And I think there's the tools there for the Aggies to be really good at running the football. Particularly if, and it will happen, with a healthy Wigman running around, and those other two guys we know can run as well, with QB run game to go with that, I think they could be a really efficient, good running team.
Well, let me ask at least about one more position there in Connor and the group overall. I know you just spoke with Connor. What was it, yesterday? Just what are you hearing about quarterback?
I think I heard you and Olin this morning, and I heard Olin saying, I want to watch him and see how that foot looks and how that's going to look. Try to figure out how that's going to look in August. So that's going to be what every fan that walks in there, and that's why I asked Connor, are you playing? He's practiced the whole spring.
Right.
He's practiced the entire spring. They just haven't cut him loose to run for obvious reasons. I've watched him from beginning to end. You guys, we've all been out there. So, I think he's gotten better on that foot. And what he talked about yesterday was it's just the muscles and the tendons and all that. They're just, you can only simulate so much in your rehab than you can put some cleats on and go out there and plant 10 times, 50 times, 100 times a day. And he's not cutting, but he's still scrambling to get away, so it's plant and move and weird positions that you just do. Those muscles aren't fine-tuned yet. So people are going to way overanalyze that thing, and I wish they wouldn't, but we both know and everybody knows they will. And Olin's saying that, it's just true. It's what everyone's going to do. So you're going to have a bunch of amateur doctors would be like in med school or going off and doing their residency. Those are amateur doctors. These are not doctors. These are people that do everything else under the sun, and they're going to try to see based on what percent they think a guy is at and how does that project out 5 months from now, 4 months from now, or whatever, till August. So have fun with that one. But I will say I'm encouraged both by what he said, but by, to me, the progress made in mobility from the start of spring till now. And I think it was smart, really smart of them to just get him out there and say, look, he needs to be out there. If that bone wasn't healthy and healed, he wouldn't be out there.
Right.
They wouldn't do that. The fact that he's out there, and I think for this part with him and Colin Klein, mentally to see it and run that offense, I think that's going to, if Connor comes out and has that bounce back season and has that season that looked like he was starting to put together last year, I think you go back and I think they'll be like, man, I don't know if I could have done that without getting out there in the spring.
Are there particular things you're looking for yourself? So Ola mentioned watching Connor. What are you looking for in the game? What are your eyes going to be on?
Well, I'm going to look at all the quarterbacks, obviously. I think Jalen had a really good, maybe his best day of practice that he's had a week ago, or not a week, like a few practices ago. Marcel, he missed a few there, but I thought he looked good. Not Marcel Reed looks good. You saw it in the bowl game, just how he throws the ball, how it comes off his hand, just how mature he was in that game, getting thrown in like that. So I'll be watching. What I might be watching the most, David, is the O-line and the secondary. It's hard on the O-line, though. That's probably in a split game. There's no ones versus twos. There's no O-line unit that's going to be full of starters. That's a tough watch. That's a tough watch. I'll go more off how the spring went. I want to see the Aggie secondary making plays. I do think the offense had one of its best days earlier this week. I know Connor came in here excited about it. Some of the other guys had said that. So that's encouraging as they adapt to Klein's new offense. I mean, it's a completely different offense. Defense as well, though? But I do think it is, but it's spring practice. And you're learning
it's early.
A completely different offense that is not in any way similar. So it's tough. That's why they call it spring practice. That's why you have to have it. Because if they started fall camp and from scratch, there'd be nightmares. They'd be so dreading that Notre Dame. But, of course, Notre Dame's the same way. They're breaking in newness at quarterback and all that. Same. And actually, now I say it, a new system, too, at Denbrook coming in from LSU. So, I really want to watch the secondary. I'm excited to see the tight end group. I hear you guys talk a lot. What are your expectations for Donovan Green this year?
I don't know what to have because of the injury, right?
That's a good way to look at it because I think be careful what your expectations are of a guy that I think we forget that he tore his ACL in August. So we're like
that's usually 14 months, 13 months?
Yeah, it's like 8 months from it. Most of the time, guys will be able to play coming off an ACL a year later. But, I mean, it's time till you look exactly like your former self. And so, I mean, I think tight end's kind of an unknown position. I think Theo had a really good spring. You see him make play. Like, Theo, what if he starts to realize those athletic gifts? And he's a monster out there running around. I think the Miller kid from Purdue has some experience and he can catch the football. He's got some size to him. And then the one I'm pretty excited about Trey Watson.
Trey Watson, I was going to say.
I am. I'm pretty excited about him. We watch him out there early practices. He can catch. He's quick. And then you go watch him on tape, and he really makes plays on the football when it's in the air. He can go up and get it. I think he could be a real threat in the passing game. So that tight end, I wouldn't be surprised to see those tight ends making some catches Saturday.
It's been a couple years since real impact tight end play, like real impact. Donovan had a really nice freshman year, but really, I mean, even Watermeyer's last year, it was not spectacular, right?
What was Watermeyer's last year was 22 or 21?
21.
I think I'm distracted by that Bama game where he put up numbers. But, I mean, I think I know how Colin Klein would love to use the tight ends, and I think there's an opportunity there for somebody to step up and get it done. And I do think, that's a position where I'd say, man, that was I think you look at that position and come away feeling better about it coming out of the spring than you did going in. Health is a thing there, though. Health's a thing there with Donovan, with I think Miller's was banged up at times at Purdue. So if they're all healthy and good, that could be a strong position. If they're not, then, you got to hope the guys like Theo and Trey Watson are high-end dudes.
Yeah.
Because I could see a world where they're looking at it and going, okay, it's okay, but depth could become a concern there if you're not careful. But I think that position is like a stock going up thing coming out of spring.
Any final thoughts as we get ready for this game?
Well, one thing we didn't. So my things are this. In summary, the tight end, running back, two positions, I feel pretty good. And this doesn't mean I don't feel bad about wide receiver at all. But I think the Jabri Barber one hurts more than people think. But I think it hurts a lot more than the Twitter fingers thing. They just kind of blew past it. He's a guy from Troy. You never seen him play. Well, people are going to focus on Connor's injury. I don't think they should. I think they should go. I'm glad he's out there. Mm-hmm. Glad he went through 15 practices. I think the D-line is the D-line. Like it's, I think York and Zune were rewarded because of exactly what they did this spring, what they looked like, how they acted, how they carried themselves in that locker room. So that's exciting. One thing we haven't talked about, two things on my list here. I'm really fired up about the potential in the secondary. I am. Like, you've heard Elko talk about Bryce Anderson. He talked about him this week. And Bryce is one of those guys, like, when you want to ask me, hey, who are some of the returnees that have really embraced the change? Who are the guys that have really adjusted to what's being asked of them and kind of started to thrive? And it's translated onto the field. That's Bryce Anderson. And that's like great news because they need a guy, because Bryce has got some real leadership qualities. Mm-hmm. They need stuff like that from guys like him. They need that from guys like him. They need that from guys like Connor. They need it, from transfers like Scorton or Reed Adams. They need that right now. So Bryce, I think you heard Elko. I think they're fired up about Dalton Brooks' potential and I mean this season potential. And I just think they feel good about the guys they brought in. Tyreek Chappelle kind of being used, and he talked about it in that different role, sometimes in a nickel. He could thrive there. Right. He could thrive there. And Bryce at safety, which Elko is pretty adamant, like, no, that he's a safety. And I felt like he was going to say, I recruited him as a safety because that's what I think he is, and that's what he is. And Connor was sitting here the other day and yesterday and said, yeah, Bryce is telling me you can't run from me now. I'm back there. And a safety with range, and Dalton Brooks is the same way. I think Ratcliffe's had a good spring. Is it Ratcliffe or Ratliff?
I think it's Ratliff.
Ratliff, I think you're right. Ratcliffe is the guy from Harry Potter. Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah, it's Ratliff. He's had a good one. Saunders gives them a big corner. I think B.J. Mays was a good addition. I said B.J. Mays? Yeah.
It is Ratcliffe.
Ratcliffe, yeah, not Radcliffe, yeah.
Yeah.
B.J. Mays from UAB has seen him out there a lot. Like he'll factor in. Ricks missed. I don't know if he missed all spring. Missed a lot of time.
Significant portion, yeah.
And I don't think that's one. Like he'll be back during the offseason and he'll be ready to go fall camp. So that's. Yeah. And then Jones from Central Michigan missed most of the time. So that Elko mentioned that the other day too. So even without seeing much of those two guys, Will Lee is the other one at corner. I mean, Mays and Lee, and then look, Javon Thomas and Bravion Rogers steps forward this spring in a new system. Those guys were picked on last year, man. Those guys, whatever you thought you saw from them, and I heard y'all talking the other day, and I agree. There were so many times they couldn't turn around and find the football, and the receivers could. They're going up against elite receivers that could find the football. Those guys couldn't. They were inexperienced and lacked confidence. Those things are starting to change, but what you did see in a lot of instances is you could see number 19 and 14 turning and running with receivers, right. Good ones, good SEC receivers. Like I forget his name now. I should never forget his name. The job he did against A&M from Ole Miss.
Oh yeah,
from La Tech, but he went off. But so many of those plays, they're right there. They're turning and running with them, and they're staying in stride with them. They just couldn't find the football. That's a confidence thing. That's an experience thing. So I think they've shown some really good improvement too. So that's secondary to me, David, when you say all of that. And you go, by the way, they're getting a 5-star from Bama who in Ricks, who we didn't see this spring. They're getting I think he's a fifth-year guy in Trey Jones.
He's a fifth-year
from Central Michigan, who was a former captain up there at safety. And, oh, by the way, also there's a guy named Terry Bussey coming in. So who's another 5-star. So really you're adding a couple 5-star talents at corner to the mix, plus a safety that's played a ton of football at actually a pretty high level in terms of like what he's put on tape. So not saying the MAC is high level, what he's put on tape is high level.
Yeah.
That's why Georgia was interested in him. That's why A&M and some other big-time schools. So where they're at now versus what they still where they can still go, I'm fairly excited about the secondary. We need to be. If you can tell me we're going to have that on the D-line and we're going to have Torian York as the anchor there in the second level, and then feel good about the second, or feel encouraged about the secondary. And then I know who's coaching that group.
Yep.
Elko and Bateman, who they're very like-minded. Obviously, Elko handpicked him. All of a sudden, okay. And I start to feel really damn good about the potential for what they could do defensively in year one. So those are kind of where I'm at in the final one. This is a lot. We're talking a lot of kind of like spring wrap. We're seeing some names fall off that came in that portal. I think they did a tremendous job in the portal, and I think coming out of spring training, if you sat in the Bright Complex and you sat in a staff meeting with Elko, Klein, Bateman, and company, I think they would sit back and kind of assess post-spring assessment of where they were at with what they had in the portal. I think they'd feel pretty damn good about it because you're going to have at least somebody starting in the secondary, if not multiple. You got, Scorton. I mentioned Rodis Johnson's going to provide depth on the D-line. I mentioned Reed Adams. He'll be a guy that competes and pushes for a job. We talked about Trey Watson. We talked about, unfortunate injury to Jabri Barber, but also Cyrus Allen. So there's a lot that came in, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity for guys to see significant playing time and or start out of that portal. So I think they'd have to sit back, and that was one of probably the more encouraging things of spring is to watch all those guys and watch how they acclimate and assimilate into the mix and have them come out of the spring going, okay, this guy's got a chance to start, or okay, this guy's going to play for us a lot. Cassius Howell's another one. So you can go up and down the list. There's quite a few of them.
Yep. Thank you, Billy.
All right, Dave.
And thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors. We'll see you on Texags Radio in the morning. Plus, I'll have a post-game wrap with Brandon Leone there from the field on Saturday.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.